Meteorologist Casey Cloud live here in the Weather Center right now, 8:40 on your Sunday evening. We have a severe thunderstorm warning, including the Stark area now to 9:15. Some intensifying storms coming in. You can hear that thunder in the background. We're just east of Stark here. The inside away from windows. We just had a special weather statement issued here, and then got upgraded here to a severe thunderstorm warning. So this is one of only 2 severe thunderstorm warnings in the whole country. The other, North Carolina, just got issued. So right here in our own backyard, we cover 62 counties, but we're within this warning here where I'm at in Bradford County. So we need to make sure you're inside away from windows. This lightning's been around the last little bit. I know damage and winds, though, the biggest threat with this for that warning to be issued. So take this seriously here. I know if we do lose power, we'll try to get on our backup system, but there's quite a bit of wind here. The wind, I know you've kind of already heard that lightning and the heavy rain, and you're thinking, well, you know, maybe we're getting to some of the worst of it on the front edge, but that may not necessarily be the case. It looks like, based on the radar up at Valdosta, it looks like some of the strongest winds toward New River and there along State Road 100 just coming in this dark now. We don't have great radar coverage right now. The Jacksonville and now the Melbourne radars are both down. There's issues with both of them, so we're having to use the Valdosta radar. We would generally use the Jacksonville radar in this situation, so we're not seeing quite as low down in the storm as maybe we'd like to see exactly what could be happening. But just go ahead and be inside away from windows. I haven't had too many severe thunderstorm warnings lately towards Stark here, so take this seriously. Let me read you the statement from the Weather Service. At 8:32, a severe thunderstorm was located over Rayford, moving south at 15 miles an hour. I know there is a little bit of an easterly component with this here as well, so just be mindful of that. Stark, Rayford, Beasley, New River, Sampson, Hampton, and Johnstown all under this warning. So make sure you're on that lowest floor of your building. Most buildings around here are 1 story, but if you do have a second floor, get down to that first floor. And it would be best to be away from windows in this scenario. So Bradford County, northeastern Alachua, eastern Union, and west central Clay counties, all under the severe thunderstorm warning until 9:15. There's a little bit of very weak rotation in here, it looks like to me, just north of State Road 100. Not overwhelming. We got to be kind of careful here. Again, we're not looking that low down in the storm. So this could, be something. It's unlikely, but it's not a zero chance that we could get a quick spin-up tornado with this. I know we've had some over the years that have kind of just happened here. Those are, ones we've had really in toward December-ish time frame there. Both of them, actually, 2020 and 2021. I don't think that's going to happen here, but can't guarantee it with us having to look this high up into the storm because of the radar issue in Jacksonville right now. I really would be surprised, but those were kind of surprising too. Honestly, there may be 2 areas of very, very weak rotation. So we'll watch, but just be very mindful here. This does seem to be something to strengthen in a bit of this coming into town. As I'll back it up here, and you can maybe not see quite as bright a red on the wind mode until it starts to approach. But again, we're starting to look a little bit higher up, so that could be kind of distorting the view a little bit. It makes things kind of difficult in this scenario. I know the instability here, that red, a little bit of surface-based cape here, really being elevated here with this compared to other spots. You see more red there. You have blues to the east, you have blues toward Tallahassee. There's some purple in southeast Georgia, but did have marginal risk of severe weather today. And, now we're seeing, some of that come right into play toward Bradford County. We were on several hours ago for some warning action down toward the Crescent City area. But now right here in Bradford County where we're at, let's try to pull up the camera. May see some of that lightning here, so bear with me. We'll look at that here. I know it's dark, but if we see some lightning flashes, you should see them illuminate on here. It was not dark just a few minutes ago. We don't have night vision here, so I hate to stay with this too long because it looks kind of awkward otherwise. But we were just right at sunset here with the storm coming on through. There you go. There was a flash, so at least we kind of got a little bit of use out of that there. You can see it illuminating everything. Just, whenever thunder roars, go indoors here. In this type of situation, I can hear that rumbling right after the lightning. So we're east of Stark. We're looking back toward the west here at the storm axis. I won't keep it up too much longer. I just want to keep it up a little longer in case we get any more of that. There you go. A little bit more of the flashes here live on the air. I know we're right at sunset. We don't have night vision on here. We're just, a few minutes earlier, we've been able to see the trees constantly and just much brighter flashes otherwise. But you've seen some flashes in there, I think about 3, as we're looking at things here, as we're tracking them. Again, it's a bit thunderstorm warning up that. There you go again. Some more of that lightning flashing going on there with the electrical energy with the storms. So let's go back to the Doppler here, velocity mode. This is live, and we do have, some of that wind enhancement here, right there on Starboard 100 coming right toward the bypass there. And probably, let me look at this here a little better. Maybe down more toward Walmart. Could be the epicenter of this here, but I don't. If we had to jack some radar closer, I'd feel a little more comfortable nailing it down. I think everybody in this warning, as we're looking off as this moves through, everybody in this warning needs to take it seriously because we're not able to see exactly where the worst of this is since we're having to look all the way from Bradford to Georgia's radar side of this. Everybody should just take precautions and treat this like a damaging wind situation that's, headed their way, because we can't guarantee anything. Even if you had the Jackson radar, you can't guarantee anything. We've seen that before with tornadoes that'll pop up here, but we're kind of a little bit, I don't think this is overwhelming, but I can't say one way or the other because we're kind of a little bit having to make educated guesses here in the meteorology community right now since we can't see the lower level winds. We're not flying completely blind, but we're flying partially blind here in this type of scenario. So you just have to keep that in mind here. Looking at my winds, my anemometer, nothing overwhelming so far, but we're going to keep watching. We're to the east of Stark here. The worst looks to be just west based on what I'm seeing. I know we'll try to tamper radar. It's really far away, but it's the only other real view. At least, just showing it, which is actually kind of concerning. Because if this wasn't as strong, it might have more trouble showing this. That's kind of actually a little concerning to me to be able to see it that strongly on the Tampa radar here. Makes me wonder, this may be a pretty volatile storm then as we're looking at things. I'm looking at some different products here. Just bear with me. I'm honestly pretty surprised we're able to see that, with that much red off the Tampa. Normally, if it wasn't as tall of a storm here, you wouldn't maybe see these reds as well. So this is a pretty volatile storm here, and it's trying to focus some of the worst of this right in that purple zone now, right around Sampson Lake there, and as we're looking out there toward again the bypass. So again, we just have to be very careful here with this type of situation. Very, very careful, obviously, here what we're dealing with. So again, with a severe thunderstorm warning, maybe weak rotation around there. I know we're guessing here because we don't have the best radar view because Jacksonville's radar is down. The Tampa radar is working, but the Melbourne radar is down. I wouldn't give us that good of a view anyway, but we do have this one. We have Tallahassee as well. I can go to it, but it's probably going to make it really hard to see this. That's alarming to me. We don't generally get these, Tallahassee and Tampa radars really would not say this that, heavily if it wasn't, unless it was reaching really high up. So I'm surprised we can see it that well off the Tallahassee radar. This is a pretty, a tall storm then, and that means it could be capable of a little bit more issues. Charleston, South Carolina radar is even showing it here coming into town. So, the reds, it shouldn't, really be showing the red. It should be just the greens with a little yellow, unless it's pretty volatile here. So, let's bring it the infrared satellite up here. That's really showing the complex here with color cloud tops. Let me switch to the other source. You can see what I'm talking about here with this situation. And let me go ahead and jump. It's going to be the composite radar is put together. Rotation tracker. Hail tracker. Could have some really small hail in here. Possible. Just have to be mindful of that. Still a 20% chance of that tropical development to the east. We do have some supercell composite here. Not really tornado parameters, but some rotational parameters here. So have to be, mindful. A little weak rotation with this as we're tracking things here. That 20% chance of development more going to be when it gets off toward the west here as we're tracking things. But with the tropics, I know the SBC outlook here, did technically take the marginal away just now, but as we're looking at things here, we have that area toward the east that we're seeing, that could have some development here tropically. Definitely, the warmer temperatures lingering, but it's cooling off now, but it was still in the 80+ degree range here just a few minutes ago before this came on in. Now down to 75 degrees to start. It's a thunderstorm warning continuing to 9:15. Let me go ahead and pull up another view here on this. I just sent out a continuation of this. Let's go to the other radar. We're just going to check on this here. And continuing to watch this, continuing to track this here. Okay, so at 8:50, a severe thunderstorm is located near Sampson and near Stark, moving south at 15 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible. Stark, Beasley, New River, Sampson, and Hampton. So, again, it's a pretty nasty storm here. I need to be inside away from windows. Unless they're really seeing something, this time of year, a lot of times you'll get a short-lived warning, and then you'll end up seeing a situation where they just go ahead and cancel it early. But instead, this is still maintaining itself enough for there to be a continuation of the warning here. It's pretty unusual late time for this, too. I mean, it happens this time of year some. All this energy buildup. But, it's something we don't get every day. That's for sure, to have a severe warning at sunset. And it's be right over, our county region. It might be the worst just to the west of where I'm at, as I'm looking at things, but that means we should be going back to that camera facing to the west. So let's do that. I know, unless the lightning is illuminating things, it's hard to see stuff, and sometimes, it could even be something in the shot here, like some type of alarm, and I can't really see it, on the fly, because, you'd have to pause it and then kind of, go back at the video and look. So we'll just go to this, it could be a situation where there ended up being something. I'd have to go back later, look at it, or somebody else, you can put in the comments a screenshot of something you might have seen in the quick flash of lightning. Sometimes it can illuminate a cloud structure or something. There's some lightning. I didn't see anything dropping down there or anything, but again, we have a situation here. The worst is probably a little west of where we're at, so it's probably hard to see it from that far through the rain. If there were to be some type of low rain, it's probably starting to dip to the south now too of our position. So the worst is to, southwest, starting in a Walmart area. Give or take, you're seeing a lot of that electrical energy here live on the air as we're tracking things in toward the weather center. So, again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on what's going on as the situation does transpire here. Very important to keep in mind here what we're dealing with. You can hear all that thunder, see some of that lightning on our view. Be very careful with these, strikes. You don't be outside in this. They can start house fires. They can, obviously strike people, and that can be very, catastrophic. That's what we saw Thursday up in toward Georgia. Saturday, the last had critical injuries toward St. Johns County to a person. So just, got to be very mindful. Right on Walmart area, and Stark seems to be about the worst of this, give or take a little bit. So we're, looking at our camera, we're looking for all the flashes. This doesn't have night vision, but it's just outside where I'm at here, literally, and looking back toward the west at this. So there's another flash there of the lightning. Again, continuing to track this scenario. Back to the other view we go, Doppler radar, as we go ahead and continue to watch the situation here. We're going to go ahead and check here some more. You see all this lighting. Again, very dangerous when you have all that lighting. Some of it, no doubt, will be cloud to ground here. I'm going to check the weather stem site in Bradford to see how many of them is noting as cloud to ground. And I talked to Ann watching on YouTube there. Thanks so much. And then also Bonnie watching on Facebook saying that it's happening right now in the Hampton area. So, yeah, this is definitely moving on in. Be inside away from windows in Hampton there. This is some nasty weather. I'm moving in toward the Hampton region there, Graham Hampton area. Could get hit pretty hard in the next few minutes. So be very mindful of that. So as we go ahead and continue to watch things here very carefully, I'm going to go ahead and look at some more of my sources here as the situation does transpire. Again, just trying to keep you up to date here on what's going on. Trying to keep you up to date here on what's going on. Nasty storm here for sure. I know, just continuing to check things. Continuing to track them. So I took power outage numbers here. Might be kind of early to get a handle on that, but over 1,000 customers in the darkened Columbia County. Haven't had any warnings over there. Fayette County at 959. We had a warning toward Taylor County earlier on. We were watching earlier on in the timeline as we were tracking things. Taylor and Madison. Let me go ahead and check the weather stem. I was alluding to that a moment ago. We adjusted 24 miles an hour at the sheriff's office here recently. 29. Okay, gust now to 29 at the sheriff's office, according to their weather stem site. That's in real time. Highest we've had here east of Stark, 13 miles an hour. Again, continuing to track things here. Reading up on the very latest. Okay, 2.39 inches an hour on the rain rate at the sheriff's office. They picked up 2 inches today and 0.8 of an inch in the last 15 minutes. East of Stark, we picked up over an inch of rain here today now on our gauge. So, falling pretty quickly. Just at 34 now, sheriff's office. As I'm going through some of the data over there. Try to keep you up to date. Bradford County Sheriff's Office, the different data coming out of that weather stem site. So they're not even getting the worst of this, and they're getting gusts like that. So that tells you it's a pretty volatile weather scenario here for Bradford County. Could knock down some trees, tree limbs. You know, it's definitely a possibility here as we're tracking things right now in real time. C58 on the Sunday on this 13th of July here, 2025. Again, continuing to watch the weather situation. Just going through some of the different data points here. Let's see what else you might have. See if there's any incident reports here in Bradford. Not yet, but I'm go ahead and say here you see around Sampson, and now really, you know, that's right there near Walmart. I mean, that is the Walmart area right there, and there's some wind enhancement, maybe a little weak rotation even right there near Walmart in Bradford County. So, you know, this is from a few minutes ago, the way the radar works, that beam coming in, you know, out of it also. It's probably already past Walmart and past the regular 301 by now, off toward the east and south. So again, just continuing to track the situation. Again, continuing to watch things here in toward the weather center. So check debris tracker. I mean, it would have to be really something very bad to get a debris signature from this far away. We're not seeing that. So, you know, if we had any quick spin up tornado, it'd be a weaker one. Probably have 0 type where we had winds about 85 miles an hour. We haven't really had that this summer too much in our area yet. I know we had that one around Tampa area that wasn't warned. It was, I think, Pinellas County a few weeks ago. You know, so you can have that in this pattern this time of year. But hopefully we haven't had that. But we're just looking at all the different scans here in the weather center. The worst of the lightning's out here. I know east side of Stark here, definitely missing the worst of this. But we still got a good bit of rain, you know, as we're tracking things. Let me see what else we have in terms of any new information. I know some folks will just call it summertime. And, you know, that's how sometimes these kind of are with these storms. But You do have to take them seriously still, especially when there's just any lightning around. I mean, whether there's a warning or not, you don't have to have severe characteristics to have deadly lightning, as we've sadly seen here lately, like toward Waycross on Thursday, and the lightning in St. Johns County. We had a critical injury. The last check there, that was the latest information we had. That was on Saturday, and some other folks impacted as well. That was not a severe thunderstorm warning situation either, because lightning is not a criteria of a severe thunderstorm warning. It's about the wind, the hail threats with that. 8:59, we just got another update. So they're really tracking this storm pretty hard at the Weather Service Jacksonville. They're a little more concerned, I think, than they generally are about severe thunderstorms to get a second update on this. And they're still keeping this because they're seeing, heightened levels here of intensity with this. At 8:59, a severe thunderstorm was located over Sampson near Stark, moving south at 15 miles an hour. Stark, Sampson, and Hampton here. The impacts toward these communities. So, got to be really careful, got to be really mindful of that. That latest scan, it's honestly moved it. They were saying south, it's more southeast, but I'd say that latest scan actually has this rotation moving more easterly now here. So that's kind of interesting. Again, we're looking way high up, and that, distorts the view. So we don't know exactly what's happening down on the surface, which is obviously unfortunate here. It would be better, we would have a lot better handle on this otherwise, but it looks like there'd be some rotation right between US 301 and 100 now, as we're tracking things on the south side of Stark. So it almost looks like it went a little bit back north, but I kind of doubt that would be something that's actually reaching that. That's not a general direction here, that we would be tracking. Again, we are a really, odd situation with the radar coverage. We're having to look way high up on all this, so makes it harder to get an idea of where the worst of this is until we get the reports after the fact, which is not ideal. But it did drop Union and Clay from the warning, so it's just, a sliver of Alachua and still some of Bradford County under this. I know we're right now. I think they're pretty much, and I'll look where we're at here, close toward Golf and Country Club area. We're kind of maybe out of that warning now, but just to the west and south is where the greatest concern lies. So again, let me see if we have any damage report. I'm going to check some other sources here. Let's see, I'm hoping it was more bark than bite, but I really don't know. Normally I have a better sense with this. I would kind of lean toward it being something, severe and damaging, but I can't, really know for sure because we have to wait on the reports more since we have that, radar coverage that's lacking. We're having to kind of, estimate things a little bit more from the radar that's further away, and we're trying to look, down closer toward the ground with it, but we're having to look higher up instead. But I know, just reading word of mouth here, Bradford County, and that's just one of our sources we have to use in these situations. And apparently a dog may be running off in the storm here on that page, but don't see anything else on the top of that. ISGS 34 at the sheriff's office. We'll keep an eye on that Keystone site, but they're not under the warning. The airport there. I'm going to keep looking at things. I'll take more power out of it in a moment. There is another incident indicator here. The other one was an alarm, maybe medical, so it's hard to say if that was weather related or not. But now there's a report of an injured person, Water Street and Allison Way. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the weather here, but that's just coming in at 9:03 is when it was dispatched. So just 1 minute ago, Water Street and Allison Way, a report of an injured person here in Bradford County. So again, just giving you the latest there in that regard, as we're looking at things. Let me go ahead and keep on looking at the scenario here. Let me see what power outage numbers we may be getting. Clay Electric. Let's check Bradford. I know in these lightning situations, always good if you can to unplug the most vulnerable electrical devices here so they don't get damaged if there's a direct strike. And sometimes that's pretty hard to do, but you can keep using, your phone to watch cover to know we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter /X, YouTube, and Twitch. Because we're trying to keep you guys safe and informed in this type of situation. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. So right now, in terms of outages by county, most of them in Columbia for Clay Electric, but 43 customers impacted in Bradford County. Right there, it just looks like it's happened in the last 10 minutes, but it's just east of County Road, or excuse me, just north of County Road 18 and just east of 301 there in Northampton. 43 customers affected here, maybe from, just as they were getting into the storm accents. So that's just 1% of the county out for Clay Electric. Let me see what other numbers we can, gather here. FPL. As we try to give you the latest. Okay, there are some outages on FPL and Bradford. 6 outages. So let's see here. There's a handful of customers over toward areas southeast of Rayford and west of Lawdy, closer toward County Road 225 and 74th, Northwest 74th Avenue. Okay, they're dropping the warning now. It looks like. Okay, they're going to expire at 9:15, so technically it's still going to go for the 10 minutes, but this seems to not be posing an immediate threat to life or property anymore, but lightning still can, obviously. But in terms of the wind characteristic with this, the wind, that's showing up on velocity mode of Doppler. So again, it's going to continue to keep you up to date. Just trying to keep you informed here on what's going on. Yeah, the wind does not look as apparent now as this moves further away. There's a special weather statement now, though. There is a Cawthorn, a Micanopy, and Fairbanks until about 9:30. That's just coming into the weather center. As we keep on tracking the situation here. We'll pull the camera back up, though it may be, starting to get a little harder to see some things. As we're tracking, there's a little bit more in the way of flashes. I won't keep that up too long since we're not able to maybe see quite as well with that, and then it's dark the rest of the time. So as we go ahead and continue to give you guys the very latest here. See, looks like there's a report now. Temple Avenue. There's a report of a road obstruction. A road obstruction there, Temple Avenue. Okay, so that could be some type of tree line or tree, but you never know. Kind of speculating there. But, in this type of situation, something to do with the weather would definitely be a possibility. That happening around Temple Avenue in Stark. The report was received at 8:59 p.m. So, again, just giving you guys the very latest here on what's going on. I'm just checking through some things. Just a one-man band here, but trying to keep you safe and informed. Again, looking through everything, trying to get an idea of the raw data. Okay, there's a report of a traffic assignment now at Temple Avenue. So that may be, down with the same type of situation. Let me see if I can get an idea of where the crossroad is, with that. Or actually, there's 2 different areas now. So I have an interactive map I can look at. Okay, so They reported the road obstruction is near the Bradford County Library behind, or maybe the Granny's parking lot somewhere. I don't know. Maybe a tree fell. I don't know for sure. Somewhere in that area is the early indication I'm getting. This is preliminary, so it may not be 100% accurate here. This is, we have to kind of go with this here on the fly, with this information in the preliminary, time of things. So, again, if it's something really sensitive, we would wait, but road obstruction reported on Temple Avenue. And then the traffic assignment there looks to be somewhere, this is all preliminary, but somewhere close to the courthouse and the sheriff's office. So that's kind of the preliminary information we're getting near Temple Avenue and, closer toward the courthouse area. This is, some of this, very well is probably weather related. Some of it very well may not be weather related. As we give you guys the very latest here. Just kind of, you have to be a little bit, thinking about this as preliminary. This is a live zero weather situation. Unless it was something really sensitive, then we wouldn't report it here live on the air. But this is kind of broad information overall. So we're reporting this here for you guys the best we can to give you an idea of where the worst of the dangerous conditions could be or could have been. I'm going to go ahead and keep looking at things here. Keep tracking. .2 inches are east of Stark for today. And then at Sheriff's Office, they picked up 2.24 inches for today. Checking more information sources. Again, just going through everything. Again, we're still live with you for a little longer. Doesn't warning go at 9:15, but just trying to see if we can get an idea of any more damage reports here and the like. I'm just going to keep looking through information here. Let's pull the camera back up. I'm not sure we're going to see much more, but just switch to a different shot for a minute. So if you see any more flashes of lightning as we look back to the west, it's starting to get a little more south now. So it might start to get a little bit harder to see as much, but we still should see the sky light up some as we're looking at things here and as we're tracking them. Again, thanks so much for tuning in, trusting me. As I have this up, I'm going to see the platform information. Again, we're on Facebook there. Casey Cloud Reacts, Cloud Weather there, Twitter /Exit Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather, Twitch Cloud Weather, and then the website cloudweather.com. So, the interactive reader over on cloudweather.com as well. So that can be helpful here as you're watching things, as you're tracking things here in the region. I'm going to go ahead and broaden the view here on some things on my other source. There's not, too much else going on in the region here. As you see, some stuff, southeast Florida there, Brunswick North on I-95. And you have some stuff downstate. But, of course, we're watching some, low chance of tropical development here in the overall pattern. It's going to be pretty wet here in the days to come. But, whether you have tropical development or not, kind of wet. So You just gotta be watching out for that. It's gonna be humid at times, though. Hot, higher heat index values when we don't have the rain around, and just whenever thunder roars, go indoors. There's a couple other severe thunderstorm warnings in the country. The one here gone as a 9:15. We have one in North Carolina, on Greensboro there. They're seeing some flood concern as well. I know Greensboro, North Carolina, and some of that region last week had the flooding from Chantal, deadly in some spots. And then as you go out toward the west here, severe thunderstorm warning, a couple flash flood warnings there, southern Arizona and in New York, and some of those areas there in northern Pennsylvania, seeing some flash flooding concerns, some significant flash flooding there. I know noted toward Broome County and Tioga County there in New York State, which is concerning. They've had even reports of, roads being closed due to flooding. So let's go ahead and go back to the Doppler perspective here. As we keep on looking, keep on tracking. Okay, we're getting a report now. This definitely has to be because of the weather. 908 reported in there and dispatched at 910 of a wire down there in Stark on Lake Street and Washington Street. So again, a report of a wire down in Stark on Lake Street and Washington Street, whether it's a power line or maybe another type of utility line, not really sure, but it's a power line. You got to be very careful, whether it's that one or if you're near another one that could be down somewhere. You got to be really, really mindful because, it could still be live. If it's a power line, it could still be live if you come close to that. If it's in water there that, is pretty deep. Not that we really necessarily have that. We've had, overwhelming amount of rain, but, you got to watch out for that risk of electrocution there in that vicinity because, it could still be live and that can be very serious. But a report of some type of wire down Lake Street and Washington Street in Stark received into the Bradford County dispatch there at 9:08 p.m. So, again, that's information we're getting in here right now. Let me see if there's anything else here going on. Let's see if we have any other information. Checking the power outage maps. I know we don't have City of Stark like on any type of power outage map that I'm aware of. Let me double check. I haven't checked that in a while, but don't think they have their own power outage map necessarily. Just for the city itself. But FP&L does, and in Bradford County, there's a few folks without electricity there. Right there around Northwest 74th Avenue and Northwest County Road 225. Just a handful according to that information. And then Clay Electric has a map. And let me refresh for the latest here. 43 customers in the dark in Bradford County on that. And then surrounding counties, or at least counties in the region, Clay County 11 customers out, 16 customers over toward Columbia County. So that's kind of the storyline there. See if we can pull up some traffic camera during Gainesville. I know you have to kind of look toward the east with all this here. We'll try to pull some in here to see if we can get a perspective on some of that lightning further on off. See if I can find one facing the east. Even if not, I might be able to see some flashes in the distance. I'll pull this one, US 441 at Williston Road here. Let's pull this one up. It's not right over that area. It's a little bit east of this is where we have the bad weather, but there's some lightning flashes right there. Right when we got on that view there, you saw at least one flash of lightning. So there you go again. So I kind of tell that weather story here tonight as we're looking and as we're tracking things here in toward the weather center. So. I know we have AJ watching there on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching there. As we continue to watch, continue to track things. Riding the view, you don't see, much at all going on toward areas like west of 75, though. Pretty warm, but we've had some storminess, especially like toward Taylor County earlier on. They had it pretty rough in Bradford County, getting it pretty rough here today. Some days there'll be one spot, or a set of spots. Other days there'll be other spots here in the region that get hit a little bit harder. So this is how it is in these patterns as we're looking at, as we're tracking things here meteorologically. So we'll pull up the model guidance. I know this is what it was showing for 9 o'clock. I mean, it's off somewhat. It's not, completely just off, by everything being in the wrong spot. But we'll go ahead and take off temperature, lightning. Let me just progress this out through the, evening. We don't maybe see too much, but then as we get into toward tomorrow, this is 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m., 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then getting out to about 6 a.m. And you see some stuff down toward, east central Florida. A little bit of spin there. Low chance of tropical development. It's not zero. It's pretty close to zero before it gets toward the peninsula. After it gets to the west, that's when we have the 20% chance, according to the Hurricane Center in Miami. I feel like, especially once it gets past Florida, maybe a little higher than 20%, to be quite honest, but we shall see. But before I get to Florida, I would say the chances of it developing tropically are, very low. Not zero, but very low here before it gets to Florida from the east. But after it gets past Florida, going to the west, I feel like, some of the models could be onto something with it developing in the Gulf. Again, Hurricane Center officially only had a 20% chance of development. The last check, I know they came out with their 8 o'clock update. Let me make sure it hadn't changed here in that update here. I don't think it has, though. They're still going near zero next 48 hours, but 20% of it gets into toward the Gulf. So Louisiana, Texas, give or take, may need to watch something that could be, closer all the way out to the upcoming weekend. So it could be a ways away. And, that could be a flooding threat. If it gets too far west in Texas, where they had all that flash flooding from, partly because of the remnants of Barry, they could have big problems there as we're tracking things, with this system that could be coming in. They had just, all those fatalities out there toward Texas. I know, whether it's that or as we look around here, the radio would have went off for that severe thunderstorm warning toward Bradford here. If you had it programmed for Bradford, got that notice about this warning here. And it's another tool in the toolkit to be informed about these strong, conditions, being around potentially. You can just play the sound on in here about special weather statements, but to actually get the alert, that would be triggered by a severe thunderstorm warning. So as we continue to watch things, continue to track things here in the Weather Center, we're just checking things here. That's a weather statement for Reddick, McIntosh, Island Grove until 10 p.m. now. Check that information. 40-mile-an-hour winds, McIntosh, Citra, Reddick, Lowell, Spar, Anthony, Kendrick, Eureka area. So that's definitely a possibility as we're tracking things. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on here. Just trying to keep you informed. Checking some sources once again here. See if we have any damage reports from the Weather Service yet in Jacksonville. Okay, well, they have a report earlier, 42-mile-an-hour gust in western Suwannee County from some storm Maxon. That was a few hours ago. Don't see any of the damage reports in the system here yet. There's a report just outside of the area of damage. A little outside of the area down to where Seminole County. 58-mile-an-hour gust actually is what that's showing up for. And then Merritt Island had a gust to 59 miles in that region. It was actually Banana River, other flow station, though, picking up that 3 miles east of Merritt Island. So that's interesting to see there. Seeing some thunderstorm action in Putnam County. It's kind of taken off here recently, that area there in northern Putnam, and now really into central. You see as we look at 95, some action there as well. So see the kind of path of this here from Stark down to the south around Stark, picking up a bit of rain, especially near that Sheriff's Office weather stem site. But as we look down toward the south and east here, you see northeastern Alachua, southeastern Alachua, some pretty heavy thunderstorm action, and in central to eastern Putnam County, some pretty heavy thunderstorm activity there. So again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the situation. We're just gonna, go ahead and wrap it on up here at this point, I think. Thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. We'll pop back in if needed. I doubt we'll have to come on again tonight, but I'll be on here as warranted here, or, as warranted, or to be posting some alerts as well. If they look a little less concerning, depending on what they are and where, impacts would be, if it's a little less popular area or something. I know we'll post on Facebook there, Casey Cloud Reacts, Cloud Weather, Twitter, /that's at Cloud Casey. We're always on now if there's a tornado warning storm moving through anywhere in the 62 county area. So that's the storyline right now. Thanks for tuning in, trusting me. We'll be back here as needed.